Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have you guys here to talk about our new and upcoming features. And we were lucky enough to get our CEO, Brian, on this call with us today. So we are going to get started here in about 5 minutes. Just give everybody time to join and get set up. We'll have a couple slides here that you guys can review beforehand, and then we'll get started. So give us a couple minutes here. We're going to start at 1:05 Central Time, and we'll be talking with Brian, our CEO. Welcome, everybody. We're so excited for you guys to be here. Today, we are going to be chatting with our CEO, Brian Waywalk. So he'll be on the call joining us here in just a minute. And we're going to talk about the new features that Listing Mirror has right now and some more upcoming features as well. So I have Erin here. Erin and I usually do the webinars together, so her voice, her face should look very familiar to you. She's going to be helping me kind of go through this webinar, and Brian's going to be answering some questions for us. We want to make this as interactive as possible. So if you guys have questions about anything that we go over, make sure that you put your questions in the question section. And we'll be going through those kind of throughout the webinar, and also we'll have a designated Q&A time at the end of this too. So first of all, I am going to go through our agenda, tell you kind of what we have planned for today, and then I will hand it over to Brian and Aaron. So first, we want to go through just the origin story of Listing Mirror. So I know if you have been with Listing Mirror for a while, you probably know kind of the reason why Listing Mirror started and kind of our whole goal with the software. But if you're newer, you probably don't know that story. So we want to make sure that everybody is familiar with that story and why we got started. And then we're going to be going into the new features that we have available today, and kind of go through why they're beneficial for your company and kind of who those features are good for. Then we're going to talk about what's on the roadmap. So I know when I talk to you guys, that's kind of the biggest question that I get. Where's Listing Mirror going? What's the direction? What's your roadmap look like? So Brian's going to be going through what that looks like and give you a couple just screenshots of what those pages look like and everything like that. So we're really excited about that. And then, like I said before, we're going to have a Q&A at the end, and then we'll do some concluding remarks as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Brian and Aaron, and they're going to be talking about the origin story.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Olivia. It's really awesome to join this webinar today, and I'm so glad that Brian was able to join us on the call. Brian is the brains of the operation in the truest sense. Listing Mirror is his creation, and so I wanted to just start by talking about what it was in this space in multi-channel e-commerce that was interesting to you and that made you think maybe there's a business here, and just tell us a little bit about how Listing Mirror got started.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. So I think I'm going to start with kind of background of like where I came from, what I did before Listing Mirror. So really, I come from development. I'm a coder. I'm a developer. I like to write code. I like to write software. And I kind of did some different things. So I'm kind of in the Chicago region. I worked in Chicago, lived in Chicago, and was very much in the finance side of things and things like that. Kind of over time, I ended up dipping some toes and doing some projects in e-commerce, and kind of what I could see there is like I had to build connectors to other softwares. I had to get into some other softwares, and I really saw that there wasn't good software for multi-channel e-commerce. There was software that was like, I'm a plugin for WordPress, or I'm this weird thing that the seller made for himself, and then he decided to start selling it, and things like that. But there was nothing really like ground up built for multi-channel e-commerce that did it in a way that made sense to me. So kind of what I did with Listing Mirror was just, I had a day job, I was writing code, but it was kind of boring and I wanted to do something else. So I was like, let's spend the evenings, let's spend the weekends, let's write some software that does multi-channel e-commerce and does it right. And I really spent, I think, 6 months at the beginning, kind of nights and weekends on my own, just kind of what's the simplest software I could write that works for, like, I think Amazon, eBay, and like Etsy, I think might have been round one, and just kind of let's write software that does these 3 channels, that connects them, that makes sense, and kind of see what happens, put the page out there. And pretty quickly I got my first paying customer, got my second paying customer, and it kind of snowballed, that people would tell their friends about it, people would kind of spread the word, and more people got on it and immediately start, asking, well, how about supporting Walmart? How about this other channel? And, very quickly we started getting like all these features. So it kind of got to the point that, I needed to do this full time. I needed to dive into this. And that's kind of, the beginning of Listing Mirror. So then it was just, let's solve these problems that customers write in, that customers ask for, and how can we solve their different problems, and how can we save them time? And would see people coming from competitors, would see people coming from other softwares, and just liking the way that we organize information, the way we sync to channels, the way we operate, and just trying to be good software for multi-channel.
Yeah, yeah, that's really awesome to hear. Just kind of your vantage point from it, just as someone who, had an idea of just doing something better than what you had seen done other places. So that's really awesome. So yeah, as Brian said, a lot of the focus at the beginning was just taking feature requests and ideas from the different sellers who are using the software and trying to make something that made sense for the seller, because coming from a technology background, we needed that kind of input from sellers to kind of figure out a little bit, at least at the beginning, of like, how do we hone this into something that can, really encompass a majority of sellers who are selling, medium to high volume on Amazon, and really needing to expand the places that they're selling and the way in which they're selling them. So that's really awesome, just to hear a little bit about your story. Olivia, if we just want to move on to our next slide here.
Yep. So next thing, next thing we're talking about is just the feature. So we wanted Brian to be in on this call and talking about the new features that we have, because really, like Aaron said, he's the brains of the operation. He's the reason that we keep adding features, and we're adding the features that we have, and he's very passionate about these features too. So I just wanted to go through the new features that we have. So first one we have here is auto split fulfillment, which just went live. So I'll hand it over to Brian to talk about that.
Yeah, so this is an interesting feature because I think we had it requested probably since the very beginning, but it was always something that, never quite made it to the front of the line. Like we knew we should do this, but we kind of had to figure out when. And basically what it means is, by default, Listing Mirror says a given order should go to a single inventory source. So that means either you're shipping this whole order out of your warehouse, or we're sending this whole order to Amazon multi-channel fulfillment, or we're sending this whole order to deliver. And that's kind of like baseline, whole order goes one place. And that works great for most orders, but there's definitely times where you'll have an order where, one item's only in Amazon's warehouse, one item's only in your warehouse. So kind of as like an easy workaround, probably a year and a half ago, we added manual splitting, where you could say, I'm going to split this order in half, and then I can send half to Amazon and I can do half in my own warehouse. And that's good for like a manual workaround, but as your volume increases, as your order size increases, you don't want to have to be splitting 20 or 30 orders a day. So this was kind of the reason for auto split fulfillment. So we see this order, can be split and automatically, and we know that part of the order can go to one warehouse, part of the order can go to another. So it's kind of, once you enable this setting, and this is an optional setting, it won't happen unless you tell it to. So by default, everyone's going to keep going the old way, which is your whole order goes to one warehouse. There's no automatic splitting, and you can manually split. But once you enable this setting, we're going to look at your inventory sources, and we're going to look at what the order was for, and we're going to try to assign it as aggressively as we can at that first item. So we're going to go that, first inventory source, how much of this order can we fill? Okay, one of the 3 SKUs, so we'll send that there. And then the second inventory source, how much can we fill? Okay, one more of the 3 SKUs, we send that there. And then that third item, it's only available in the third warehouse, that's where it goes. So it will let us, ship out, an Amazon MCF package, a deliver package, and something from your own warehouse for a given order. We'll send that off. Each place will only see the part of the order they care about. Each place will upload their tracking data back to Listing Mirror. We'll combine all that, and then we'll send it off to the marketplace as, here's your tracking number. So it's kind of that seamless handling of more complex orders. So I think anybody who has more than one inventory source, like if you 100% fill things out of your own warehouse, don't use this feature, it doesn't make sense. But if you have multiple inventory sources going on, this is probably an interesting feature for you.
Yeah, and hopefully it will also allow more people to be able to have multiple inventory sources because this feature is available. So if that's something that helps you grow your business as well, because now you can ship half of your stuff to an Amazon warehouse and we can help you manage those orders, like that's a huge plus to be able to do that. So yeah, I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, and also on the handout, on here we didn't talk about like the way of setting it up or the logistics of it, but in the handout it has all of the information that you guys need. So if you want to set this up for your account, just go ahead and download that handout and it'll have all the information there. Or if you miss that handout, we'll be sending out the information on an email. Probably on Thursday or Friday, we'll send that out with a recording. It'll have everything that you guys need to set this up.
Sweet.
So our next feature here is block Amazon logistics, which I'm sure, and Aaron probably gets a lot of questions too, but I've had lots of questions about what this is and how it works with Listing Mirror.
Yeah, so stepping back, this is for people that use Amazon multi-channel fulfillment. So as a reminder, multi-channel fulfillment is you have an order that comes in not on Amazon, say it comes in on eBay, comes in on your Shopify store. We take that order, we send it to Amazon, and Amazon through the multi-channel fulfillment program takes a unit of your FBA inventory and fulfills this order. So it's kind of where that connector piece there. One downside to this that has existed as long as we have had this is that Amazon has their own logistics program. So you'll get a tracking number that starts with TBA. It's an Amazon delivery van, goes out and kind of does the last mile delivery. If you're selling on Amazon, for an FBA order, that's fine. That's great. But when you're selling on a marketplace who doesn't allow that, then it's not fine. So the biggest examples are Walmart and eBay. Both do not want you to deliver items with a TBA. They don't want you to use Amazon logistics. So this is a new flag that you can send to Amazon and say, stop that Amazon logistics. Only send it with standard carriers. So it tends to be USPS, UPS, or FedEx based on what makes the most sense. I know we have a whole webinar on this topic, so I'm not going to beat it down, but I think if you haven't heard of this and you're selling on other platforms other than Amazon, you should definitely look into this. And this is kind of a unique flag that we were able to work closely with the Amazon team, and we were able to roll it out very fast. As far as I know, we're the first platform to get this. Eventually, other people may be able to do it, and I know you can do it by hand in your Amazon account. But by it being in our software, we're automating that for you. We're sending those orders out, and you can, know that they're not going to show up in an Amazon delivery van.
Yeah. One question I have come across from a couple people is this something that Listing Mirror is coordinating, or is it something that Amazon is doing?
Yeah, so it's both. So, I mean, it's an Amazon program. Amazon, came up with this new feature. They exposed a new flag, which, a flag is just, basically when we go and say, go fill this order, we should send this SKU, send it to this address. And one of the things we send it is, should we block Amazon logistics, yes or no? So it's really just telling them yes or no. And we are just passing along that flag, and Amazon, when they get that order, they know internally to handle it differently. So it's kind of a team effort.
Yeah, and much like Olivia said, for the first feature that we talked about, the steps for setting this up. If you want to watch the webinar, we do also have the webinar that kind of goes over how this exactly happens and how to do it. But also on the handout, there's information about how to set it up. Because it is a coordinated effort between Listing Mirror and Amazon, and you need to make sure that the settings are correct so that it works.
And we kind of give you the flexibility to say per channel, do you want to use this or not? So what you could do is, if you had say a Shopify store and you don't care if you use Amazon logistics, we can go ahead and not send this flag. And then something like a Walmart that doesn't allow it, we will send this flag. So you can kind of go channel by channel and pick where do you want to send this flag.
And the main reason why you probably would want to do that is because the fee structure is different. So you want to be mindful of that, because we don't manage the fees.
Yeah, but I believe it's a 5% surcharge for having this. So
yep, yeah, it's 5% surcharge.
You do it, but if you don't need it, then save that 5%.
Right.
And that's a 5% on your shipping fee, not on your total sale fee, obviously. So it's if it's $7 shipping, there's a 5% surcharge on that $7, not on your $50 item.
Sure. Yeah. Cool.
And then blank box is kind of the other side of the coin. It's very, very similar to block Amazon logistics, and it basically just says, you know, rather than using an Amazon branded box, use a plain brown box. Don't use anything with Amazon branding. So it's the reasons why you would set it up are basically the same as Block Amazon Logistics. And in most cases, you're kind of gonna send these two together. I would say places where you wouldn't send them together is something like, you know, maybe on a Shopify or something, like you really want to control the experience and you really want your goods to arrive in a brown box, but you don't actually care about the delivery van. Something like that, maybe you would use blank box, but not Block Amazon Logistics. But I think most of the time you're going to want to use both of these programs together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And this is another Amazon feature that they offer, that Listing Mirror is basically allowing you to use through our platform, you know, with just like changing some different settings. So again, you know, make sure that you go through your account and that you have the settings set up correctly. Just because you're using Block Amazon Logistics, that doesn't automatically mean that you're doing blank box or vice versa, even though they do work well together. And another thing I was going to mention is I seem to remember when we were talking to Amazon about this, that blank box is kind of a little bit behind Block Amazon Logistics in terms of like where they are in their
yeah, so I think the details are currently requires you to send in your packaging slightly differently. So, you know, you'd have to talk to your Amazon rep about it, but there's a slightly different type of box structure you would need to send in your products. I think the long-term goal is that Amazon just has blank boxes everywhere and they just make it work, but I don't think that's the reality today. So if you're heading down this route, you know, definitely talk to Amazon, make sure you understand what kind of box you need to do, how you need to do your inbound shipments differently so that your items get marked as kind of blank box compatible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Listing Mirror is providing the way in which you can make it happen, but just understand that on the other end, there's still more work that you need to do as a seller to make sure that everything is set up correctly, that you understand how the system works. And at one point too, you had to be a beta.
I think you still do. So I think for blank box, you actually have to sign up for a beta program. We can get you approved for it, but you still have to go on your own. There's a webpage you go to, you sign up with your email address and your Amazon account, and then you can talk to us and we can pass along your info and get you approved.
Yeah, and if you need that link, we can provide that for you. And it might also be somewhere on our website, but if you do need the link, you can email Olivia or you can email myself, and we'll make sure that you get the link to join the beta program. So
awesome. And then our last feature here that we're going to talk about before going into what our roadmap looks like is purchase orders, vendor catalogs, and web receiving. So take it away, Brian.
Yeah, so these used to be part of a bigger package we had. It was originally called Inventory Mirror, and the idea was kind of like a companion product for Listing Mirror that you would use to kind of manage your warehouse, manage parts of, you know, what shelf an item lives on, you know, your purchase orders, all of that. We have kind of, you know, that probably launched about 2 years ago, and then I think maybe a year ago it got rebranded as Inventory Intellect. So it was really the same thing, just kind of trying to, you know, express what it did differently. But at the end of the day, what we kind of decided as a business was it didn't make sense for us right now to have a companion product, but we didn't want to just throw away all this code. We didn't want to just delete all of this. So it was, you know, good, useful things. So we've kind of melded those into our core product. And now I think if you're on the gold plan or higher, I think you get access to these and you're able to use them. So the basic workflow of this is you set up your vendor catalog, and that's basically you input your suppliers and you say what products do they have. So you link like the SKU of the product, the manufacturer part number, and the cost. And you know, if it's just a couple items, right, you can add it in the UI, but really you're going to use a spreadsheet. So hopefully your supplier has some type of spreadsheet for you. You'll copy and paste it, upload it, and then you'll get in their system a vendor catalog of what your vendors provide. And then when it's time for a purchase order, you can go to a purchase order page. You can just fill out the SKUs and quantities that you want, and we'll have that cost from the vendor catalog. So we'll fill in the cost and we'll give you, you know, pretty quickly a way to generate a purchase order. When, you know, you're happy and you've added all the SKUs you want, you can pretty much click send. It will email the vendor a copy of the purchase order. It will kind of save it in your records, and you'll have a record for the purchase order. and then, you know, that goes off, your supplier fills it, sends it to you. And then once you receive it, there's on the same page that you created the purchase order is now kind of in receiving mode. You validated what did you receive. So you're double checking, you know, you ordered 10 of a SKU. Did you really get 10 or did you get 9? And you have to deal with the fallout. So you're entering those items in that purchase order, validating that they arrived. And then kind of as you're entering them also, we're increasing your inventory. So, you know, if you had 5 of a SKU on the marketplace, 10 more arrive, we're now going to say, hey, you have 15, and we're going to sync that number to other marketplaces. So it's just to save some paperwork and, you know, save some steps for, you know, placing purchase orders, for receiving, and for just, you know, just anytime we can do more things inside of Listing Mirror, we want to expose those and, you know, give you opportunities to save time.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is like a decent amount of setup that goes into this. But do you feel like it's, how quickly can it become beneficial, I guess?
Yeah, I think it can become beneficial pretty quick. So I think if you have, you know, a small vendor with a couple SKUs, it's, you know, a few clicks to add that. You have a big vendor with a huge, you know, spreadsheet. It's probably worth the time to upload those, get them in the system, get the cost there. And, you know, maybe every month you get a new cost structure, you can just kind of repeat the process. So there's, you know, the once a month work to keep the costs in sync. But once you do that, then you can create purchase orders with, you know, fewer steps than trying to just open up an Excel from scratch and try to do a VLOOKUP into your price table and dealing with multiple vendors and all of that. So it could be a good time saver for sure.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, like the more organization that we can provide for you to be able to manage your e-commerce business right inside of Listing Mirror, that having all of that information in one software has huge advantages. I mean, I know we have lots of clients that have many different softwares connected, and it gets really tricky to be able to troubleshoot when it comes to, you know, when it comes to trying to figure out who's responsible for, you know, whatever fell apart or whatever. So having more of those options right inside of Listing Mirror is a huge plus for our clients. This does tend to be something that people need help with, but I just want to make sure that you know, if you're listening today, that we are totally open to and would love to help you set this up and make sure that it's something that works well for your business. So don't expect that we think you're just going to go in there and set it up and have, you know, no complications, and you know, it's very complex, and we're here to help. So for sure, get in touch with our team, and they're all well trained by Olivia or Brian or myself, and so everybody knows how the stuff works. We would love to help you set that up. So.
Yeah, and also if you guys aren't sure if any of these features that we talked about are a good fit for you, we're also here to talk to you about that, kind of go through your workflow. So feel free to email myself or Erin, and we can set up a call with you and kind of talk through your current workflow and see if any of these features would fit in well and help you guys save time. So I think that concludes all of our new features that are available right now. Like I said before, they are all available on the handout. The articles on how to set them up, the links that you guys need, everything is on that handout, so make sure you download that. And next, we're going to be going into what's on the roadmap, what's new with Listing Mirror. So if you guys have questions about any of the new features, make sure that you guys ask them. We're going to do a Q&A at the end that will go through those questions. So I don't see any questions at the moment, but yeah, make sure that you're adding them there, because this is probably the only time in a long time that we'll get Brian to be on a webinar with us. So any questions you have for him, make sure you ask him today, because it might be your last chance here. But I'll hand it over to you guys to talk about what's on the roadmap.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk specifically about our roadmap, because it's something that we get asked about all the time, and also because I know a lot of people are very eager to see certain features come out. So I would love to see what kind of features you are really wanting to see. So, you know, if you have like anything specific that you're really wanting to understand why we, you know, haven't added it yet or whatever, that'd be a great question, because Brian's going to be the one that kind of we'll be able to answer.
And in general, just make sure if there's something that we're not doing and you want us to, just write in. I mean, we can't instantly do all of them, but every time somebody writes in, we attach that to a story on our back end, and we use that as a vote. And we see if 10 people have wrote in about the same thing, that's, you know, something we're going to think about prioritizing for our next feature. So even though it may seem like, well, I just write in and then, you know, nothing happens, you know, in reality, we're adding votes and, you know, you are influencing the product. So ultimately, we want to make this product for you guys. And, you know, this product is to make your life easier. We just obviously have to choose which features we code in a given week, in a given month, and kind of balance that against, you know, what's going to be the most popular. So that's kind of what I spend a lot of my time trying to weigh.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about this first one. I know we've all been putting a lot of effort into getting Wish launched today. So tell us a little bit about what makes Wish different, special, important for listing mirror clients.
Yeah, I think just it's important in general. Kind of our theme from the beginning was always we want to expose your products on as many channels as possible. I mean, there are many buyers that only buy on Amazon. There are many buyers that only buy on eBay. But there are also many buyers that only buy on Wish. And before today, if you know somebody was a Wish buyer, there was no way that they were going to find your product. So you know, now that we have Wish, that's just one more channel you can add. It's a pretty straightforward channel. I think you're gonna like that it works pretty quickly and that it isn't super complicated. So I think it's gonna be a pretty easy channel to use. And it's definitely got a lot of buyers. So I definitely encourage you, you know, we have a link for you to sign up at and encourage you to check it out, list some products and see what happens. Definitely, you know, we're always continuing to add marketplaces. So, you know, continue to send in requests for marketplaces and, you know, we have to balance which marketplaces, you know, support us and have a public API that we can use and which marketplaces do people want. So this is kind of for, you know, the last few months, Wish has been kind of the guy who rose to the top of both of those lists, but we'll continue to add marketplaces, continue to give you new places to sell.
Yeah, so you should have also seen an email go out this morning and more information about the Wish integration. If you aren't selling on Wish yet, please go to our website and look for the Wish logo on our website. That will take you to a page where you can sign up. And also, I just want to let you know that we're going to have a webinar next week with the Wish team and kind of go over the integration and talk about the ins and outs and what kind of products sell well and all of that. So if that's something that you're interested in knowing more about before you commit to it, we would love to have you join us next week, and we'll be sending out more information about that soon. So yeah, we're really excited about that, and it was fun to work with the Wish team on this project too, to not just be doing it and not really knowing, you know, how stuff was going to fit together and stuff. Sometimes when you're developing, you don't always get the advantage of being able to, like, you know, talk to their developers and stuff. So I know that was something that we really appreciate about this partnership and working with Wish. So cool. So I'm really also excited to talk about these design overhauls and just kind of seeing how these really help propel us forward into the next gen of Listing Mirror, because it's looked the same for a long time. So
yeah, so depending on how long you have been around Listing Mirror, this is kind of like our managed listing page is kind of the first page you see when you log in. It's kind of the page you're interacting with the most. And the current version is actually the second version. I think it would have been like 2017 or 18. We rewrote it and you know, came up with the present version. Version before was similar but slightly different, but really the bones of our app, kind of the core frame has kind of been the same. So this is kind of, you know, it's been due for an overhaul, and this is kind of like going to be our start of the new Listing Mirror app. So this is going to be, it's going to have a different look and feel. It's going to have a sidebar instead of a top bar, things like that that will kind of, you know, make the page be a little more modern, make it look a little bit nicer, and I think be a little bit more functional. I think we're going to roll this out first with managed listings. And And then what you're going to see is page by page as we redesign other pages, they're going to be kind of brought into the fold. So you'll see it first as managed listings, and then the orders page will look like the old and crusty way it does now. But in, let's say, maybe a year, we will have gone through most of the pages and kind of brought them up to speed. So I think this is a great page to do first because it's something that you guys use a lot and it's an important page, but it's also a page that is kind of showing its age. So at the high level, the things we want to do is it's very much, the current managed listing page is very much at the SKU level. So you're just operating, one SKU at a time. And that works really fine for many sellers, many people who just sell, simple products who don't use variations. But if you're somebody that is very, very heavy down variations, so I'm thinking of people that do clothes, things like that, where you have hundreds of variations of the same thing, why show you the same row hundreds and hundreds of times when really you just want to see that product? So, with behind the scenes, we've, rolled out the concept of a product over the last 2 years. And really, it's just kind of hard to see. You have to go into the product catalog, you have to kind of go in other places. So this is kind of like forefront, grouping things by product and let you operate at the product level. So I think beyond just looking nice and looking more snazzy, I think this is going to be a really good page because it just lets you operate at a product level. And I think for anyone who has variations, really, this is going to make you a lot more efficient. It's going to let you see what's going on, things like that. I would say time frame for this, we're going to take our time and make sure that this page is really well done. We'll probably have a public beta at some point, and we'll be figuring out how to get a hold of people and get some volunteers. But I would say this is just starting actual development right now. So expect to see it, in the next few months officially roll out, but you might see some peeps in a public beta or something like that a little bit sooner.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if you are interested in signing up for being part of whatever the beta process looks like for this launch, definitely, let Olivia know or myself, or you can also just let the support team know. I know many of you are in contact with them pretty consistently, so let them know and they'll make sure that you get put on that list. So yeah, I think what you were just saying about how we've needed to morph this because we had, we really focused on listings, and then we started focusing on, okay, now we're creating like a product catalog. So now we have, just a little bit more depth, and we weren't, our new page doesn't necessarily compensate for that. Or our existing page doesn't necessarily compensate for that added complexity. So I think that this will be a really, really great change. And I just want to clarify too, that this is really just how you interact with the software. It's not necessarily adding like new features or anything like that. It's literally just about how it looks to you and how you interact with it. And so because we have always focused on being very high powered and doing a lot of things behind the scenes to make sure that that things are working well. That's part of why the page looks the way that it does, because our focus really was on, let's just put all of our effort into the power, the functionality. So we're really excited to be able to put effort now into the design of it and making sure that what we are presenting to you is something that is a little bit more intuitive. So.
And I would say take this screenshot as like a 90% of what the final product will be. We're still like eyeballing it, still making little tweaks. So there's going to be some small changes, but I think when we're all the way done, it should look pretty close to what you're seeing now. So it's at least this is the skeleton that will be used.
Right. Yeah. So none of this has been developed yet. So this is just, a mock-up of what we're hoping that it will look like. So once it's in production, it might look a little bit different, but hopefully it functions really well for you. And yeah, and you can give feedback on it too, because we would love to hear that. So another really cool design that we're working on is a new concept for Listing Mirror, not a new concept in our space or a new concept for the direction that we've been wanting to go, but would love to hear your excitement for the Listing Mirror dashboard.
Yeah. So dashboard is something that we have always kind of wanted to do. It's always been, managed listings shouldn't be your homepage. It shouldn't be where you're really managing your e-commerce. It's just a part of it. So, we'll finally, decide to buckle down and, make an actual dashboard that kind of gives you a single place to kind of head off into that managed listings when you need to, but also see what's going on with your orders, see what's going on with sales, see these different parts of the system and kind of give you one place. So this is a much more rough draft. So I'd say the final product might only be 50% this, whereas managed listings was a 90%. So we're still really just playing around with the kinds of things that you need to see. And very much we want to, give you one-stop shop to kind of see what's going on with your inventory, what's going on with your listings, what's going on with your sales, and just kind of summarize all that into as little space as possible. And this is like our goal for this is, every day you come to work, you want to check out your business. This is where you log in, and this is where you kind of see what's going on. So we want to take on as much of that as possible. And obviously it's a very, very deep rabbit hole that could, go down forever. And, there's a whole reporting part that needs built out and things like that. Mm-hmm. This probably won't have every possible permutation in the first launch, but the idea is, we're going to launch it with, these are the most important things that we're able to come up with. And then over time, we'll add in more. We'll maybe we'll launch with, 2 little reports, and over time, we build it out to 10 reports, and you choose which ones you want to see. So it'll be kind of both be useful and exciting in the first draft, but we think it's also going to be the platform upon which we're able to kind of build more. So kind of think of it both short term, this will be good, and long term, we think it'll be great as it really is able to do more and more things for you.
How tied in, because I know another topic that we've been talking about launching or just moving into is notifications. So how tied in is this like dashboard going to be connected to just offering the option to have more notifications, more control over notifications, and anything else, I guess?
Yeah. So I mean, you see a little blip of it. You see there's some notifications here. I think that's going to be another story. So anytime we can take a story and do it as 2 smaller parts and kind of release one part first so people can start getting value, we always try to do that first. So I think to avoid this story, becoming so big that it takes 6 months to do, would rather shrink it down and make it a 2 or 3 week story that just does most of the stuff. So notifications wouldn't come out directly as part of this, but kind of further down the pipeline, we also have a full notification center, and that's going to let you see for all the different types of things that send you emails, all the things that send you in-app messages, really customize which of those go to your email, which of those go to your in-app notifications, maybe some go to text messages. I mean, kind of whatever we end up deciding there, but that's going to be kind of future, just like more reporting, things like that. This isn't going to be all the reporting like that you could ever want, but this is going to have reporting, and this is going to be kind of the launching ground for more reporting.
Sure, right. Yeah, it'll kind of like set up a structure for us to be able to build out more reports. Because again, like if you've been in contact with us behind the scenes and you're like, hey, I need an export of whatever data, we can pull that for you. We're tracking all kinds of things, but getting it to a point where it looks like something you could do something with in a dashboard is like a totally different process entirely. So yeah, I think it'll be, this is like a great starting point, and then that will kind of give us like the framework to be able to build out more reports and be able to give you more options for what reports are showing here and all of that stuff. So,
and it really just goes back to kind of what do we see our purpose as software, and really what we see Listing Mirror's purpose is we really see it as kind of your centerpiece in your e-commerce play, right? You sell in different places, you have inventory in different places, you have orders in different places, you have many different things going on. We're kind of like the hub of the wagon wheel that's connecting to everything, and we're managing where does inventory go, where do orders go. We want to manage that flow of data and add some intelligence behind it. So I think as part of that, having visibility into what's going on with all of your e-commerce in one place is what Listing Mirror wants to be, and what we're aiming to be for our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, if you are someone who cares very strongly about, what ends up in this dashboard, or how we build our reporting, or if you have ideas for, what would make it most useful to you, make sure that you're telling us about those things, because this is a great stage in which, we're still able to take a lot of that feedback, because we're still developing what it will look like and what exactly will be on the page. So.
And I think rollout for this will be similar. We'll probably have a private beta, then we'll probably have a public beta, taking feedback the whole time. This one I see as, a few more months out. So I would say expect to see this live before the end of the year. Kind of as we get closer, we might have a better timeline, but we'd like to get this done probably this year.
Yeah, hopefully we can start teasing it in emails and such soon. So be on the lookout for that for sure. Well, thanks so much for talking through our existing new features, as well as some of the roadmap features that we're going to be working on or are working on in the near future. Olivia, what do we have for questions? Has anything come in?
Yeah. So we have a couple questions here, and if you guys have any other questions, make sure you add them in here. So first question we have here is, what is the plan or timeline for having pricing syncing work for WooCommerce?
Oh.
Yeah, so very specific. So I guess for some background, WooCommerce is kind of a special integration. When we developed it, we wanted to do something different, and what we did is we made it a quantity only integration. So you could sync quantity, but no other data fields. And kind of we thought this would be a way to kind of add more integrations faster. It'd be a way for us to kind of speed up the process a little bit. And then really what's happened is, it hasn't worked as well as we would like it to. So we still have people that want to sync listing data. We still have people that want to sync pricing. So kind of behind the scenes, we've rolled back some of those changes. So we got rid of the concept on the back end of quantity only listings. So I mean, that was like a long project, and it was very gross and messy. But like that is complete. So kind of we have in place that WooCommerce can be a full integration. Mm-hmm. So I think it's going to be kind of between a big marketplace, like Wish is a big marketplace launch. Maybe before we do our next big marketplace, we might do like a WooCommerce kind of relaunch, where really we just, finish that last 10% of it. So we basically have the structure in place. We basically have all the things in a line. It's just a matter of kind of finishing it off, and then we can kind of be rid of the concept of, a quantity only integration, and it can just be a normal full integrations, and kind of a lesson learned that we should make all of our integrations support all of like the standard features. So it's kind of a learning lesson on our side that it wasn't useful to do a partial integration like this.
Yeah. And I remember at the time when we made that decision, it was like, we had Shopify that was a full integration for a web store platform, and
we had BigCommerce.
Yeah, and BigCommerce, and we were like trying to make the decision about WooCommerce. And it just seemed like every client that was onboarding that needed WooCommerce needed very different things from it. And so I think that made it especially tricky, because maybe you can remind me better, but it has something to do with like you're setting up your own servers and things like that. So just a little bit trickier for.
Yeah, there's a lot more onboarding complexity for any of the self-hosted stores. So this is really Magento and WooCommerce primarily, just because our client is responsible for being a server admin, right? And a lot of them aren't Linux server admins. They don't have IT degrees. They don't have experience. So it can be kind of a rough experience. And that's why we have kind of tried to, in the past, guide people towards something like a Shopify, where it's hosted, and every Shopify store we connect to is the same. So we code Shopify once and it just works. WooCommerce is very much, you set up your WooCommerce server, I set up my WooCommerce server. Each one's going to have different plugins. Each one's going to be in a different version. Each one's got a different firewall, and there's a lot of layers to complexity that kind of complicate things. But
yeah, and if you had someone create your WooCommerce store, maybe that's something that you didn't even realize, that it's so drastically different than something like a Shopify, which all functions on the same premise. And so, yeah, setting up the ability to sync price between Listing Mirror and WooCommerce is not just a design decision, and it's not just a small, there are lots of complications to it, and we're always trying to keep in mind the balance between creating a really positive experience when you're using a software, so that you're not constantly frustrated by what's happening, but on the other end, making sure that you have like full power and functionality to be able to do with the integration what you need in order for it to really move the needle for your business. So we're always aware of that, but it's great to hear that people are still looking for that full WooCommerce integration. So
Yeah.
what else you got for us?
So next question I have here is somebody is using Vendio currently and different software and wondering how easy it is to integrate with Listing Mirror and get started with Listing Mirror. They currently have Amazon, eBay, and would be adding Walmart later on.
Yeah, so I am not familiar with that. So we don't have an integration and we haven't built one. So generally when people come to us with, something that we don't integrate with, first thing we'll do is we'll pull up their website, look at their docs, see what it looks like. And really what the most important thing is that like it's your vote, right? So we have a story on our side for that. And Olivia is going to take your email and add it to that. And we'll have like one more vote that Listing Mirror should integrate with that platform. And kind of over time, as we get more votes, then we decide this is really, really important, we should do it. And that's kind of the standard answer, just because there's so many different platforms. And something like a Wish can be used by almost all of our sellers, whereas that platform might only be able to be used by 3 or 4 of our sellers. So it's just a much smaller market. The routes then to do it are kind of either, route A is, add your vote. If you have friends that use Listing Mirror, have them add their vote. If your friends don't use Listing Mirror, get them to use Listing Mirror and then add their vote. Kind of whatever it takes to get some more votes, vote early and often. Second thing is we have a public API, so you can just go to api.listingmirror.com. We have basically an API is what would let code talk to our website. So what you can do is you can hire, either you have an in-house developer or you can find a third-party developer, and you would hire them and you would have them build that connection between the two platforms. Sometimes that works out, sometimes that's tough, and it kind of depends case by case. Third case is we do custom work. So if a client wants a connection to a site, I mean, we have the resources and we have the know-how. If we are able to develop it, it will be a first-party connection, so we can guarantee that it will behave just like everything else, and that our support team can support it, and that it's really stable. But obviously that comes with a cost. So that's something that you can write into us, and we can kind of discuss individually with you what that would look like, and kind of give you ballparks and prices and stuff. Generally, we're very reasonable. We're not looking to, have that be like a huge profit center for us, but really we just need to cover the development time. So it's, as you have with hundreds and hundreds of different clients, we're getting hundreds and hundreds of different feature requests. And, in a given week, we can go through, I don't know, 20 or 30 stories. So we can't get through all of them every week.
I thought of a fourth option too, which would be maybe you don't need the software, maybe you don't need that other software, and it's something that Listing Mirror can do for you. So oftentimes we can replace something that you're doing somewhere else, and we can do a better job at it too. So if that's the case, then we would love to kind of talk through that with you. And yeah, it would just kind of be an individual conversation at that point in terms of what that looks like and what functionalities that software has versus Listing Mirror, and making sure that we can cover, I guess, the breadth of what you're doing with the other softwares. So
awesome. We're gonna try to lace through a couple more questions here. We are going on almost an hour, so running out of time here, but couple more here. Looks like Lawrence is calling you out, Brian. He's asking you, when can we expect to see more item-specific updates for eBay?
Does he mean Etsy? I think he means Etsy.
Probably, yes. Actually, that would be for Etsy.
Lawrence is on our homepage, so he can complain. It's okay. So yeah, Etsy is kind of a similar story to WooCommerce. I'll give a very short version. We coded 90% of Etsy. There's a couple features in it we didn't code. One of them are those category specific fields. So when you pick a category, there's not a category menu of extra fields. So it's something, it's very high on our list. We want to do it. We want to kind of bring all of our integrations up to that level, and we'll hopefully do it as soon as we can.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he's saying oh, go ahead.
you. Sorry, go ahead, Olivia.
No, I'm just saying, Lawrence said he meant eBay. So Lawrence, you'll have to like explain that a little bit more on what you mean.
I think he just wants more empty boxes at the bottom of the category page.
That is true, which that is
Yeah,
coming
like
for you.
more, and he wants more. But
Yep.
Those are pretty easy. You need to write and ask a feature request.
it's in there.
Is it in there?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we're working on it. Another question here is, how easy is it to get started with Listing Mirror? They already have their marketplaces. They're on a different software. How easy is it for them to switch over to use Listing Mirror? What does that process look like?
Yeah, so it's not too bad. So it definitely, if you have used another software and your data is organized and things like that, generally you'll be set up for success. So I think the most of the complications and most of the complexity has to do with like things like not being organized, things like I don't have any SKUs on my eBay listings, things like my SKUs are just random letters I banged on the keyboards and they don't match between channels. So things like that make it more complicated to set up.
Yes.
If your data is organized and your data is clean, we have a self-setup model now. You can go to listingmirror.com, you sign up, you add your accounts. We'll link everything with the same SKU together. We'll let you approve the data, make sure it looks good, and then there's a start syncing button. So not going to go in too deep because I want to get through some more questions, but it should be pretty good. If you find yourself stuck, write in and we can help you out.
I would say maybe give yourself like a work week, not full time, but just if you can chip away at it within a day, your listings will be in there, and then it's just learning the software basically after that point. So yeah, organized data is really helpful though.
Yeah, and also to add to that, if you have questions before you get started with the setup process or as you're in it, we're always here to help you guys out too. That's kind of my department. So if you have any questions, you'll see here my email address in a minute, but you can reach out to me directly and we can schedule a call to go through things, or I can just help you via email to get set up. But we are coming to the end of the hour, so we'll pause on these questions. If you guys have other feature requests, if you have other questions that you didn't get a chance to ask, I think I was able to go through majority of the questions we had here. But if you have anything else, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer those or add those feature requests in for you. And that kind of is the end of what we have. And just to kind of give you guys a couple resources that we have. Like I just mentioned, I'm the client success manager here, and onboarding and getting, helping with your workflows, doing wellness checks, training, that's all up my alley. So you guys will be working with me directly. And you can email me right here. My email address is olivia@listingmirror.com. So any questions you have, reach out to me and I can, if I'm not the one that works, or if it's too technical for me or anything like that, I'll make sure that you guys get to the right people or you get to work with me. And then we also have your technical support. So in your Listing Mirror account in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a little bubble that says Quick Help. If you click on that, that takes you to our knowledge base. So our knowledge base is filled with tons of articles, videos, training, everything that you guys need for your account. So any questions that you guys have, make sure you guys are going to that knowledge base, searching for the article. Our support team is always writing more articles weekly. So everything that you can do through our software should be in an article somewhere. And then on top of that, if you guys want to work with our support team directly, you can open a ticket there. So at the top of that page, you'll see an option to submit a request. So you can open that, it'll open a ticket with your support, with our support team. When they respond, you'll see that notification. It sends an email to you notifying you, and then also in your Listing Mirror account, you can see that too. You'll open up that support portal again and respond to them there. So lots of different ways to get in touch with us. I think that is all that we have for you guys. Brian, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. It was super, super fun to interact with you and ask you questions and kind of get your feedback on the different features and the excitement that you have for them. But that is about it. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Brian, for being a part of this, and we hope it was beneficial for you guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.